Started.
Oh, Craig, welcome to the party, Craig, and welcome everyone else to the DXdao Community Call for the last day of March, the last day of the quarter. We're almost 25% of the way through 2022. Big agenda today on the Community Call. We have squad recaps for Swapper, Governance, Treasury. We have the huge cow launch farming on Swapper. We have the Agave auction to recapitalize Agave protocol, and then we have the culmination and conclusion of the ETH Denver virtual Buildathon conclusion, and then of course open questions submitted by anyone in the community. So why don't we start with a recap of the Swapper squad, Zeth, but maybe hold off on like the cow things until the next one. So are there any other updates outside of the cow token from the Swapper side?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the cow things is super exciting, but other than that, we're working fully on launching Swapper Beta 12 and Swapper Beta 13. We're looking at having a new swap box almost done, or I would say we're just testing it, and then we have Curve integration into Gnosis chain, and Arbitrum is being tested, and yeah, we have a bunch of like nice features. And one of the bigger things we've been working on for a while is socket integration. It's a bridge aggregator, so we basically open up a lot of different routes for bridging inside of Swapper. This is super awesome, and yeah, so the next versions will be huge, and that's why it's maybe taking a little bit more time. We're doing a lot of testing, and yeah, it looks good.
Awesome. And any tease or alpha on maybe further down the line or anything else talking about Swapper?
Yeah, I mean, I love alpha, and I would say like we already integrated CowSwap. It works through Swapper. It is super awesome. This is also something we're testing, and we're trying to just make better. We're doing what we call do-it-yourself farming. We're updating it so we can do single token staking, and anyone can do it as a campaign. I mean, we have a bunch of new features just coming up. Everything we're releasing is going to be super exciting. Do you think? Are you thinking about any other alpha? I mean, all our stuff is pretty cool and awesome. I'm not sure. Is there anything else?
Well, I feel like there is kind of discussion on how to, eventually make Swapper more kind of the Swapper token take a larger role in Swapper governance, and kind of maybe the beginnings of that. Nothing right now, but that's something maybe to be excited about building.
So, I mean, I can say this. When we are prioritizing which governance features will be out first, we did some talking and some discussing, and which part should get first out. And Swapper token holders will be the first to govern Swapper. We had LP token holders at the top of this list before, and for now, I would say to launch Swapper Guild, we needed to be Swapper token holders. There will be some kind of forum post, some kind of singular proposal also asking the DAO to actually do this first. So yeah, Swapper token holders will have a lot of power over Swapper and the token, the fees, and a bunch of stuff. So we'll be launching its own roadmap, basically a Swapper governance roadmap that will just be specified for the handing over the power to Swapper token holders, basically from DXdao. So yeah, that's one thing that's gonna happen, and we're also looking into a fee that no one else has have. I know maybe fee sounds scary, but this is actually benefiting Swapper and its partners, and will drive more liquidity to Swapper. We're looking into adding something we would like to call project fee, and more into that later. But it's super exciting. It will help us gain partners, gain new, new kind of liquidity that we haven't seen before. So yeah, that's enough alpha for us.
And he didn't even any questions in the chat or on the chat here. I guess Connor Zach or how to pronounce them, but maybe we'll wait. Shame.
Yeah, you're lagging a bit.
Yeah, I think the US mobile internet infrastructure. But I'm happy to just
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I just looked and I just went to a park and I picked up a random Wi-Fi. So maybe that was it. The Wi-Fi wasn't as good, so hopefully a little bit better now.
It's clear now, but I'm happy to jump in and give a brief update on governance and treasury.
Yeah, go for it.
So, no questions, so I'll just go for it for now. So first of all, governance, pretty quiet week, so to speak, on mainnet and Arbitrum, so we don't currently have any proposals live there. Most of the activity really on the Gnosis chain base, a few worker proposals, and then a lot of proposals which actually overlap with the treasury updates as well. And then we had another couple of more governance topics on the agenda, like the Agave auction, but we also have a separate talking point, so I'll just skip that for now. And then kind of looking at the more treasury-related proposals, we actually had a significant amount of funds moved this week. So we refilled the DXD buyback relayer on Gnosis chain. So we had a transfer from mainnet of 385 Ether to that to keep the buyback going. So that's been going forward as planned. And we also bridged some XDAI or DAI funds to XDAI, namely 400k DAI, half of it which just DAI, which goes directly into the treasury, and half of that we actually wrap it and then deposit it in the treasury wrapped. And that just gives us some flexibility as thanks to the generic multi-calls, we're able to trustlessly swap wrapped XDAI. We can unwrap it, we can swap it to USDC or USDT on the Curve 3 pool. So it's always nice to have some wrapped XDAI as it gives us a lot of flexibility in case we need different funds. And then one other very interesting proposal is actually we have our last provisioning of WEF and XDAI into our swapper pair, so kind of related to swapper. We passed a proposal, I believe it must have been almost a month ago now, about increasing the DAO's position in the WEF DAI pool on Gnosis chain. And this is the last proposal going through. And due to the increase in price in Ether, actually, we'll probably have quite some amount of DAI left over, which we'll be able to withdraw to the treasury as well. And other than that, the buybacks are going ahead as planned. We have a few lined up already this week and continuing to post them. And a bit of alpha on the treasury. We've also had a few discussions about, I guess, how we can move more seriously into the whole yielding on the treasury part. For now, we've been highly limited by kind of our current schemes and call ability. So we've really only done passive stuff, right? So we have some staked ETH and some stuff there. But we're hoping to get a proposal up, hopefully next week. It's currently being worked on about, a more long-term plan about how we can potentially even, build some infrastructure which can allow the treasury to be much more flexible and partake in much more common yielding opportunities, right? Because the treasury is really an asset to DXdao, and there is an opportunity cost now of not putting those funds immediately to yield, but I think it's also important to do it in the right way. And actually, very excited about what we're planning and hoping to execute on, and hoping we can get something on the forum next week. Yeah, I'll check if there's any questions in the chat. Can we buy some Gno and stake? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one other little update on governance, kind of as it relates to what Zet was talking about with swapper governance. Is there has been, you think about DXdao, what does it mean that it governs swapper, and what does swapper token holders mean. And over the last couple of weeks, there's been two, I guess, DXdao governance things as it relates to Swapper. One is, of course, updating the .eth domain. That's a proposal that goes through mainnet and is able to do that. And then the other was actually updating or increasing the Swapper XDAI fee to 1%. And that's what DXdao controls now, the ability to set those fees. But eventually, that's what Swapper token holders would get. But in the meantime, there is some discussion about trying to move some of the other pairs, particularly, I guess, the Swapper and the DXD pairs, to see how the fee adjustments would affect that.
Yeah, and just answering the questions in the chat in regards to the buyback frequency. So we're trying to submit as many as possible. We had some amendments in, I believe, not the past extension, but the one before, where we add some parameters about the frequency of the buybacks. So we just timed it correctly this time, so it would overlap perfectly with the new funds coming in from mainnet. So we should expect to see, at least 5 or 6 a week of buybacks regularly going through. And then regarding the staking no on stake-wise, that's certainly an option. Again, a lot of these limitations are actually doing it through the treasury. I'd actually have to look into if that's possible to do directly from the Gnosis treasury, which I believe it might be, thanks to the generic multi-calls. And but we're also in touch with Stakewise, and a number of contributors also stake no on their own DApp nodes. So we're definitely very supportive of securing the Gnosis chain, beacon chain.
And the treasury does have some GNO with that, or a stake that was converted to GNO.
You're muted, Dave. I don't know if you're talking.
Yeah, no, I was done.
Oh, yeah, there is stake. Did we convert it to GNO? Because there was stake in the Gnosis chain treasury. Yep.
Cool, and really excited about the treasury stuff that he was talking about at the end. I think there's a real big opportunity for DXdao to kind of figure out how to earn yield on its treasury while also building infrastructure and tooling that can be utilized by other DAOs and fit seamlessly into the DXGov and like the DXdao DeFi product suite. So really excited to work on that. Okay, any questions on? No, I think that's it. So next up is cow launch farming on Swapper. So I don't know, Sky, Zet, John, who wants to kick it off here and maybe explain what the last 4 or 5 days has been.
Zet, do you want to do the honors?
I don't know. I'm
Give us
always
the intro. I'll jump in
oh.
when you.
I feel like Dave made the most amount of money. Maybe him.
Right,
Oh.
Dave maybe is the earliest cow farmer, but yeah, what was the timeline?
Where's my co-op?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fun thing was like the coordination of trying to get the pool to launch right as cow launched. So for those not familiar, there was this vCow locked up cow that was governance in the cow protocol, and then they could vote to make that vCow liquid, and that's what would like kind of commence the airdrop, and then like token launch itself. So CowDAO, I guess, had worked with Balancer on mainnet, and then was working with Swapper on Gnosis chain to be able to come up with a farming plan that would be there for launch and kind of provide liquidity over the coming months. So we had a discussion. We talked about this last week in the community call about the plan for the 4 different token rewards, which may be a little confusing, but I think also highlights the capabilities of Swapper and the cool potential of Carrot. But yeah, it was a 4 reward token campaign for the cow weth pair. We launched it, I think, about 50 minutes after the cow token went live. Some pretty hectic multi-sig action in order to get it there. And yeah, I think there was $30 million in total volume on Swapper in the 24 hours after the launch. And that was $6,000 in just protocol fees alone. And there was a lot of great fees, LP fees actually for DXDAO's LP positions in the WETH XDAI pair, and actually also in the USDC WXDAI pair, because there were a whole bunch of trades that went from COW to USDC, and then to go from COW to USDC, you actually go COW WETH, WETH XDAI, XDAI USDC. So a lot of like cool things, some maybe hiccups in terms of how you can add liquidity if the price is super volatile. And yeah, I think the price is still volatile a couple days after, but I think a really great example of how DXdao can kind of be DXdao and Swapper can be a really great partner for other projects. And I think hopefully sets a good example for that going forward. Others have things to add.
Yeah, I mean, super significant for Swapper because I think this is the first time a project used Swapper as like a launch partner, right? That targeted a liquidity campaign with Swapper on the actual token launch. Obviously, there's been the launch of Swapper token itself and other projects using Swapper for token incentives, but this is like I think the first time that we've seen it with the launch. And yeah, the crazy amounts of volume just shattered any kind of previous record on Swapper, and it's really boosted the TVL of Swapper on Gnosis chain, and it puts Swapper, if not number one, on like that the Uniswap style dexes on Gnosis chain. It's very close now with Sushi Swap. I think Sushi has something comparable in terms of TVL, and then of course Curve is like way higher, but that's the stable swap style. So for the kind of general token DEX, I think this puts Swapper right at the top on Gnosis chain, which is really great as well. And 4
Zet,
tokens.
maybe.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting. Something similar. Zet, I was curious, anything that you think could have been improved? I felt like we got, working on this as like a launch. I feel like, a lot of these people have gone to the Swapper token launch and maybe some other things. So we're kind of learning things. What do you maybe think some of the growing pains or learning lessons from COW?
I mean, there is some, right? So, I mean, first of all, I think everything went really great. What we could have improved is a couple of things. We did have some hiccups on the depositing of the tokens to the COW ETH pool, and we think we know the reason, and we're almost sure it's the reason of the slippage. So we had a lot of volume and a lot of volatility in the price of that pool, and some people had some problems actually depositing into that fund. We are implementing a fix it's not even a fix, it's just a setting to make to add liquidity the slippage to the adding liquidity. So this is something when we forked Uniswap, it didn't exist on Uniswap. So I'm guessing that's why we basically haven't been keeping up with all the things they have added. So this is one thing we surely want to get fixed until the next big campaign or next big thing. So we never seen this error before because the volatility of the COW ETH pair was so big. It's very hard to see this happening. Another thing was obviously our integration with Carrot is great. I think still Carrot not mainstream ready. It's still very confusing to understand what a Carrot is. We do have Carrot as one of the rewards for the campaign on Swapper. So imagine you people just depositing and farming, and then they claim maybe after an hour, and they ask, "Hey, how do I sell this Carrot token? And what is a Carrot? What is this token?" So we had a lot of those questions, and we had actually in the app, if you click on the Carrot link, it took you to the Carrot landing page. This is because Carrot wasn't updated with the latest campaign. So I would say in the future we would definitely want Carrot to be up to date, so we could just send them to the right place through the app. Because right now when we had the campaign active and people were asking, we couldn't send them directly to the page. We had to custom send them a link. I think that's like a couple of things I thought about at least.
The Thriller is asking in the chat, what, if any, were the risks of a partnership like this? Could anything have gone wrong and cost us something for doing this if things hadn't gone well with Cow? Or should we always do this kind of thing? So yes, I think there are, anytime there's a big event, right, whether that's like a token launch or sale or, something that is going to cause a lot of people to pay attention and come to a certain dApp and use it. And anytime there's a, more coordination, there's some risks that come with that. And as like a product person, I think you're always anxious around these types of events. And like, I'm sure Zet, you were feeling this on Monday, and like some of us that were on the multi-sig, we were definitely anxious to make sure that it went well. But I think the risks are well worth it, because I mean, this is what we're doing here, right? This is the whole point, is to bring more users and bring more projects to Swapper. And yeah, there's always risk that something breaks or doesn't work well, and you maybe like are kind of causing a lot of users to have a bad experience. I think that's the main risk here. I think things went incredibly well with this launch on Monday. And of course, there were a few things that we realized we could have been better prepared with, or we might want to fix on the dApp, but that sort of comes with the territory when you're doing something that you haven't done before.
And to add on to that, Cal protocol, and obviously it coming from Gnosis, is a collaboration that DXdao is very happy to partner with, and there's other reasons behind that where there is plans and should be close, where Swapper becomes a decentralized owned front end to the Cal protocol, allowing an additional way for the community to access Cal protocol on top of CowSwap itself, and then the balancer front end, which is a big benefit for Cal protocol in general, and also a positive addition to Swapper echo routing as well. And then on the flip side of that, there is the fact that Cal protocol does not have its own pools of liquidity, so it leverages other pools of liquidity and other AMMs and trading venues such as Swapper, where those pools can become the large, or the key important pools that allow Cal protocol to succeed. And so the integration of Swapper pools into Cal protocol is also like an important integration. And so when when you're trading on Cal protocol, when you're trading Cal token, likely that trade is being settled through Swapper pools, at least on Gnosis chain, for example, and then there's other places as well on mainnet, and so that all ties well together. And so to Thriller's question, not like all of these decisions on whether or not to team up with and work with a project on a new token or something, especially in a world where there can be, iffy projects and scammy tokens and stuff. The community, the Swapper community, and the Swapper token holders, and by therefore the DXdao community, should evaluate these proposals and collaborations before just jumping into them. But I think with Cal protocol, it clearly made a lot of sense, and the community, voted and decided to go forward with these proposals. And we did an actual signal proposal on Gnosis chain to gather support for the program prior to allocating any rewards from Swapper and from the DXdao treasury as well, which is cool.
Yeah, in general, I guess it is important to do due diligence on the project to make sure it's a legitimate project with a token that's not going to be like a scam or something. Because I mean, I think in theory there would be some risk if it was like a scam project that could like mint infinite tokens or something. But I mean, of course, Cow was not that. We've got a very deep relationship with them, so I think that maybe goes without saying here. And strategically speaking, too, beyond what like Sky was saying with Swapper, I think there's a hope amongst our community that this is setting a great precedent for other Gnosis projects, right? Because Cow is sort of the first token launch to come out of Gnosis, the former company that is now Gnosis DAO. And obviously Safe is probably the next one coming up on the horizon, and there's probably going to be others beyond that. So strategically speaking, I think it's hopefully this was seen as a great experience by the Cow community and the Cow Protocol team, and will set a good example and hopefully inspire other projects to partner with Swapper in the future.
I just chuckle a little whenever I hear Cow community.
Should we just condense it to community?
One additional thing to this that would be really cool, and I don't know if I can't do it, and I'm not sure if we have the technical or the scientist internally that has this ability, but maybe we can use a bounty. But it would be really cool to analyze the growth of wallets and what types of wallets and what types of users have come to Swapper because of this event, and kind of get an understanding and insights as best as we can on where those people came from. If they were all people that received Cow token airdrops, if people bridged Cow token over to Gnosis chain to use Swapper, who are the not who are the people, but what are the characteristics of the wallets that are staking Cow token and stuff, and doing some analysis, because that's on-chain analysis is the only way that DXdao and Swapper have to learn about its user base. We don't do any cookies. We don't, it's fully private. We don't have any tracking at all. And so doing on-chain analysis is the only way to learn and gather insights. And so if there's anyone that people know that have that ability, please have them reach out to the Swapper team or the DXBiz team, and I think we'd be happy to commission some type of analysis to get learnings from this whole experience.
Definitely. I think Venki has some basic Dune dashboards to show the increase in users, but diving deep on like kind of where they came and like kind of it's really, because again, this is like an explosion of users for Swapper, and so can we keep them, can we kind of engage with them, offer them different things? That's like kind of like I think it's really great that we're coming out with this, the Cow swap integration and also the bridge integration. There's lots of things to kind of sustain the momentum after this influx of new users.
Jim's mentioning that a lot of people are asking how to bridge from Gnosis chain to Ethereum mainnet. I'd be curious, if those people are asking in Discord, I guess we could try to find them and follow up with them. But I'd be curious why that would be, why people were thinking
I was going to comment
that action.
I think that's likely just because the airdrop was claimable on Gnosis chain if it was below a certain threshold, right? So I think the majority of the people were claiming on Gnosis chain, although probably more tokens may have been on. I haven't looked at the numbers.
Why would people then probably want to move that to mainnet? Do you think they're just more comfortable with it?
I bet that they got an airdrop on Gnosis chain and never been there before, and wanted to like get. They had the DXdao probably airdrop so they could do some things. And maybe they just wanted to leave Gnosis chain.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But maybe they just want to get back to where the rest of their funds are and consolidate or something.
Jim, are you saying that you get fee discounts? You get fee discounts only if your cow tokens are on mainnet in your wallet?
Yeah, that's correct. They confirmed that in the Discord.
Gotcha.
That seems a little silly, but I think one of the things that's really nice with Swapper and Cow is obviously mainnet is going to be a competition for lots of things, right? I think the balancer pool there got more rewards, and then that Uniswap pool was like a better liquidity, higher fees. But of course, it's Gnosis chain, so there's a huge alignment of interest for Gnosis to draw more users and liquidity to Gnosis chain, and then the only place they can do that for Cow is on Swapper. So I think that alignment of interest is very strong strategically.
So maybe on the same topic, maybe a bit to the side. Like a while back, I posted about, Sky and Nathan and myself were chatting about this, but to integrate sort of like the CowSwap front end, or at least the ability to trade directly from Swapper with CowSwap. And then, it's like a different trading experience, obviously. But if, kind of like my take on this is that theoretically in Swapper, you can get the best prices out of the entire Web3 ecosystem, either through CowSwap, which you don't mind waiting for in immediate execution, or sort of like immediate execution, depending on how much gas you pay, like through Swapper, if that makes sense. So this is I don't know if we've discussed this. I wasn't on like some of the Swapper calls, but yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, Nylan, that integration is happening, and it's because the experience is unique. The Swapper team's doing a lot of people are doing a lot of testing of it to see if the way it's working kind of makes sense before making it live, but it is, the integration is already there. But it's not live.
Didn't Zet say it was coming in beta 13 or 12? So I think we've definitely done most of the heavy lifting for it now. So I think because it's really cool. What you could have is, right, someone coming to Swapper and then using CowSwap to actually tap into Swapper liquidity, right? And that would be different than like using Swapper and basically the Swapper router to tap into Swapper liquidity. Like even I could imagine that CowSwap probably, like the router could maybe even go into like more than one pool on Swapper, say like the GNO DXD and the WETH DXD, to make a trade potentially too. So it should be a really interesting kind of integration. Anyway,
Yeah, sorry, and I guess there's like a lot of overhead just on the front end of how to show this and how this is visualized without completely confusing the users. Because
CowSwap is not that different than Uniswap, I think, in a lot of ways. Like I think that is a little confusing, but that's what they kind of have now. But anyway, we are kind of at 40. We have another couple exciting topics. I know Cow is super exciting, but they're moving to the next item on the agenda is the Agave auction to recapitalize Agave protocol. So I think most people in the community may be aware of the exploit that affected Agave and 100 Finance. I think it was just over almost 2 weeks ago. And so there was some discussion in the Gnosis forum led by the Agave folks about getting some type of deal or recapitalization that will help both refund some of the lost funds while also kind of providing like a recapitalization or like another funding to Agave to drive development going forward. So there's been some discussion about this in the community about how maybe DXdao could participate this. Obviously is a close relationship with the Agave community, but also someone maybe with some strategic interests about having some a stake in a lending protocol. So there was a post over the weekend about this, kind of laying out the background and maybe some of the opportunity for DXdao. And I guess maybe before we get into that, John, you want to kind of give a little bit of an overview of what happened, or TLDR? Or
Yeah, I'll try to keep it real quick since
Yeah.
we're running out of time here. But there was this hack, there were multiple hacks, I guess, or two rather, that drained both of the lending protocols on Gnosis chain, them being Agave Finance and 100 Finance. 100's a compound fork, Agave is an Aave v2 fork. And yeah, it was a re-entrancy style attack. If you're familiar, this is like the same style of attack that the original, like the DAO hack back in 2016, whatever it was. That was the type of hack that drained the DAO. It's also what drained Agave and 100 here a couple weeks ago. And if you look at why that happened, I think there's maybe a shared responsibility of the protocols themselves for not doing better due diligence on the tokens they listed, but also on the code, the original code, for not being hardened against reentrancy, and then also perhaps with the chain or the bridge, maybe if you wanted to look specifically at that, for having these kind of non-standard extra callbacks added to a couple of these legacy, there are older versions of the tokens. The bridge had actually got it updated a couple of years ago, but some of the original tokens on Gnosis chain had these callbacks added, and that kind of opened the door for reentrancy as well. So a few things lined up to allow these hacks to happen, and it doesn't make sense to kind of like blame anybody, but I think there's like a shared responsibility amongst the chain and the protocol to address this now. And I provided this link here in the chat. I think Wayne has also added the 100 one as well, so you can go to the Gnosis forum and kind of see these proposals to try to address these issues, the lost funds basically, and make the users whole. And so it's like a combination of Gnosis DAO potentially providing some funds to compensate the users, and the protocols either providing some funds themselves or raising capital via like token sale. So particularly with Agave, they're talking about doing a token sale of Agave token from their treasury. There is like 100,000 fully diluted supply and 30,000 circulating, and they're talking about taking 25,000 from that treasury reserve of whatever, it's like 70K, and selling that to raise capital. Part of that at least going to making users whole, and I think maybe part of that also going to providing some runway to capitalize the team. I think previously there really hasn't been much of a treasury for Agave beyond its native token. So I think there's some aspect of this is to actually raise some capital there too.
Just a comment from Squid to say 100 is also considering updating the proposal to include an auction, by the way. I guess just interesting on that is we haven't really had any discussions with 100 Finance or, engage with them. I guess maybe partly just because they don't have as close a relationship in the community. But yeah, I think there are some strategic opportunities for DXdao. I think mostly because you see this product suite that we have emerging. Carrot, I think, is a good example of it. It can kind of piggyback off of Swapper for a little bit in order to get users in order to find product market fit in it as it iterates there, and that's really beneficial. And then of course we can kind of like integrate maybe a token launch platform or there. And then simultaneously, when we think about DXGov or this product suite that we're building for DAOs, there are a whole lot of things that can be done in that I think integrate into a DeFi product suite. And when you think about DeFi or you think about finance, really, it's like there's trading and there's lending, right? So I think at a core of any DeFi product suite, you need a decentralized exchange, and I think that's both a front end and a liquidity pool base, and that's what we have with Swapper. And I think there's a strategic interest to have some alignment in a lending protocol, both for product integrations, but also even for maybe the DXdao treasury itself, right? We have a lot of stable coins, so those could be deployed, but if they're going to be deployed in a lending protocol, it would be good for DXdao to have a big stake in that lending protocol, just like it does with Swapper. LPs more than $5 million in Swapper, but that's because DXdao is a huge Swapper token holder. So I think that's where we're kind of coming at this from as a discussion in the community, that it's like a strategic interest. And then it kind of gets into the specifics of agave, and then the specifics of this like moment or like the kind of deal right here. And I think those are still a little bit up in the air. As you said, like Squids is saying, there's going to be an update. I don't know if there's been an update to the agave post. I didn't really see anything, or maybe I guess for some in the last couple hours, but I don't think anything that significant. So I think DXdao kind of should be ready to act, but I think we still need to kind of see how things unfold. And I think like kind of the key areas are obviously like, how does this auction work? Specifically, what is kind of going to the funds? I think again, John has talked a lot about like the actual technical restart of the protocol and like understanding like how that would work, which we need to kind of understand that. I think there's some other questions about like, if the funds are raised to fund a team, like who is the team and kind of how is that process going, and putting some due diligence into that. And then I think there's some like additional due diligence into like how kind of Gnosis is positioning itself. I think that really helps limit the risk to DXdao if Gnosis is also taking a role in this. And then I think the last thing to consider is, what are the long-term roadmap or plan for this lending protocol. I think we think about lending again, that's like such a core function. And so if DXdao is going to commit to a DeFi product in the lending space, what is the not just what is the product right now, but what could the product be in the future, like as DeFi lending matures. So yeah, some things to still think about and unfold, and I think we'll definitely be keeping the conversation ongoing.
Yeah, and I think strategic alignment with the chain, with like Gnosis DAO, those are good things, and if we can achieve that, that could be good. But yeah, definitely agree on those due diligence points with the team, the roadmap, and also just the technical plan for the restart. And there's a few things they need to account for here: the stolen funds, the market prices moving since the funds were stolen. Like actually, the ETH and GNO that was taken away from the protocol has increased in value, so that's something that needs to be accounted for. And also, even though the protocol has been paused, the way the accounting works at the smart contract level, it's still accumulating interest for people who are interacting with the protocol, taking loans and stuff, and those interest rates are completely out of whack because the collateral has been drained, right? So the rates are super high, and these things are accumulating at high rates, which will just basically put people off of their balances from when the hack happened, and would probably also expose some of the users to being liquidated if things were to be like unpaused. So I imagine this is going to involve some kind of a redeployment that kind of accounts for all of these moving aspects of the problem. And we should just feel good about that plan before they actually, before we do the investment, I think, if that happens.
Definitely. Any thoughts from the stage? Questions, comments from the chat? Well,
it would be great if community members, DXD holders, rep holders, just anybody really in the DXdao community, if you're interested, have the time to kind of take a look at the proposals and keep an eye on it. I think like all those points of due diligence will need some more content to be shared from the Agave team, right? So when we see that from the Agave team, we'll make sure to get it on the DXdao forum in that thread as well. And yeah, it would be great to have eyes on this and opinions voiced as to whether this is something that should be pursued.
Definitely. Okay, the last item on the agenda is the ETH Denver Buildathon conclusion. And I think, John, are we ready to announce the winners?
Yes, yeah, I can share the winners here. Those will also be submitted, and then eventually they will be paid out by the ETH Denver team. I think the actual payout should be happening in April. So yeah, for those who aren't familiar, there was ETH Denver in February, and was a hackathon. That was a big part of it. And there are two components to the hackathon. There was the in-person hackathon in Denver, and then there is the virtual hackathon that continued. It started at the same time, but has continued up till end of last week. And ETH Denver actually required that all bounty sponsors, that those who were creating bounties for the hackathon, had an equal amount of value in the bounties for the virtual part and the in-person part. And we did the in-person part. There were already winners there. We had eight submissions and selected a couple winners out of those for our bounties. And for the virtual hackathon, we've had 3 submissions, and I think there's going to be one winner out of that. And it's actually the a team that had won one of the in-person prizes. It's called Farm Kudos, and I don't have the links handy right now, but I will share some of these links in the chat in a second. And yeah, that's basically it. It's not they were using an implementation of our governance team's guilds to manage, to act as governance of their project. And their project's all about giving out what they call kudos to farmers, and it's cool. You should watch the video. And yeah, it's exciting to see teams experimenting with guilds, because we think that that'll be a cool feature that's released from the governance team. Thanks, Wayne. I'll provide some more links here too. But yeah, and from the in-person one, we'd already talked about this, but there was also a winner called Nifty Carrots, and this was adding a new template to the upcoming version of Carrot V1, which will support custom reward templates as well as custom oracles. And so that means that you can actually provide different styles of rewards. Right now, it only supports like single ERC20 tokens, the Carrot MVP. And so the Nifty Carrot was actually enabling NFTs as rewards, which was pretty cool too. But that was from the in-person one. Yeah, that's the wrap on the ETH Denver hackathon.
I think it was a Buildathon, John. Just wanted someone else to have to say that word.
Yeah, I'm going to avoid pronouncing that.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with Buildle, but not okay with Buildathon. That's, I think, my official stance. Any questions, comments, suggestions about the ETH Denver Buildo Hackathon? Cool. And then I guess a minute or so, a couple minutes for any open questions from the community about anything. We cover a lot on this call here. I'm thinking all the cow talk at the beginning. But yeah, any open questions or comments from the stage? Well, Beadle, I agree. Well, sweet. Well, thanks everyone else for joining. I am happy to report, I know you guys are all going to be disappointed, but next week, Keenan will, I believe, be back in his proper role as host, so you will get a break from
restore order to the community.
Restore order, yeah. Yeah, Keenan will have his, Keenan knows how to control Craig. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and have a good weekend.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.